Mr. Chair, go ahead, please.
Welcome everyone to our meeting, March 22nd at 12 noon. We call the meeting to order. Any conflicts of interest?
No.
We see none. Approval of the agenda? Moved by Councillor Duffy, second by Councillor Durand. Thank you. Adoption of the minutes of February 22nd. What was that? Sorry, Bob?
No, I had my speaker on. I shut it off. Sorry.
Okay, we're looking for the adoption of the minutes for February 22nd. Moved by Councillor Duffy,
Sure.
second by Councillor Durand. Was there any business arising from those minutes?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Your worship.
Just going down to taxi stands.
Yes, sir.
There was discussion about taxi rates, proposal sent forward. So is that going to be brought up today?
Chair, yeah, I
Chief.
have it under bylaws to discuss.
Yes.
Open part of the meeting.
Oh,
Yes, it is.
okay.
It's on there, sir.
Good. Okay, thank you.
Any other business arising?
No.
See none. Let's go right into reports. Fire, Deputy Chief.
Fire report, everybody should have their operational report. Okay, should. It's in here. My apologies.
No problem.
Total fire inspections, 25. These operational report for the February 18th, March 18th timeline, 2022. Total fire inspections were 22. 7 general inspections, 5 follow-ups, 3 complaint inspections with hazard compliance orders issued, and 5 other inspections with compliance orders. 5 files were closed. 8 plan reviews and permits or consults were completed. 1 fire investigation and 3 education sessions. Virtually there by our fire prevention officer. Emergency responses, we had 51 total calls, 33 at Station 1, 16 at Station 2, and 2 inspector call-outs. Total time for all calls was 24 hours and 49 minutes. Broken down by districts, 14 hours, 3 minutes, District 1, and 10 hours and 9 in District 2, and 37 minutes for inspector calls. Weekly department training, we were still on pause. We just managed to get a virtual training session in last night. We had over 65 members there, so that was great.
Great.
In the virtual setting, so really good. And we have another one scheduled for next week, and hopefully in April we can get back to physically back in front of each other. Change of clock, change of batteries scheduled for the 19th. March was canceled due to weather, and they just had it this past Saturday. Very good turnout. We had over, I think it was 400 batteries, if I'm not mistaken, and they're gone within the hour and a half, that thing. So lots of people come on through. That is the operational report, Chair. I didn't have any items for agenda, but I do have a couple here just to
Sure.
mention, if you don't mind.
Yes.
In contact with Irving Propane from the mainland, they need they're 1 year over their, I guess, certification exercise. So they have to do a full exercise with the departments involved, and police will be involved. There'll be media releases and the rest. That's going to be in the week of May 7th. They're still trying to get some dates in line. It'll probably be an evening, and it'll be a exercise at the propane terminal on Allen. But we'll coordinate all those details and have everything going.
And there's going to be a media release on that, you said?
Yes, they have to, as part of their preparedness, they have to go through that whole informing everybody so that there are no calls during it. And it's part of our checklist, is
Oh, okay.
make sure everybody's aware.
That's good.
Bylaw review continues. New station design, same meetings are progressing. We are at, we just had one last week, and we have another one scheduled at the end of March, and they're hoping, I think, 90% complete drawings in April timeframe. But that's
Great.
to be updated. Operational budget, that's still in progress, and I have some notes on that for closed.
Mhm.
Volunteer firefighters at the fire school, we had 18, we're down to 17. One member actually had a move. They moved from Charlottetown to North River just during the course, so we had to take another training for us, and North River's looking at putting him back in, I believe. But we're looking at 17 strong out of the recruitment class, and they did their first weekend of practical training this past weekend. So the next 4 weekends they'll be part.
So that puts our numbers up to what, 76 volunteers?
We're at 77 right now. With the 18 would be 95.
Well, that's good.
With everybody through.
Right.
There is a normal bit of attrition there after the course. People realize, okay, a bit much of a time commitment or things like that, so numbers do drop, but that's the approximate anyway. And I think that's all I have, Chair.
Thank you very much. Any concerns or anything for the deputy chief?
I did drop out to McDonald's. They were well organized and it was well received by just not passing out batteries, but also the grocery bags.
Yes, we had fire prevention bags put together, all kinds of treats for the kids and
Yeah.
those type of things. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah,
Just-
fire prevention does a very good job, and they get all that stuff in advance. We have boxes of stuff that show up, and we wonder why, and then a month later, they're all gone.
Great.
Just under the bylaw review, is that something Chief Randy started and are you following up on it, or is that?
Yes, I was involved in the process internally to go forward, so that bylaw that's in place now, I'm just going back through that again.
So there will be amendments coming forward?
I believe so, yes.
Thanks, sir.
Councillor Duffy, any questions for
No,
the
I have
deputy
no-
chief?
No, I'm fine, thank you.
Well, Councillor Jerome?
No, good, thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, deputy. I guess Chief of Police, Brad McConnell, you're up next.
Thank you, Chair. Under our operational section, our calls for service in February were 1149 compared to last February, which were 1027. So moderate increase, but to expect it as we ease out of COVID restrictions and see more people. All the calls are relative to the population. So protests continue at the Cenotaph area. Last weekend we had about 40 protesters on site, so they continue. We expect probably this weekend as well.
Would you, sorry, Chief, would you expect those numbers to grow now with the weather getting better? Or is that gonna be ongoing?
You know, I wouldn't expect them to grow, and hopefully, that the environment stays the same. There's been no issues related to these protesters, and certainly we respect people's peaceful right to protest. And whatever crowds are there, we'll make sure they're policed appropriately, and we urge people to respect each other, and certainly the public right of ways, also including sidewalks and roadways.
Very good, thank you.
We recently met with Summerside Police Services. Our new digital forensic examiner, Jim Duran, gave a presentation to the management groups of the both police services regarding shared digital forensics. So monies obtained through federal guns and gangs funding allowed for some shared services in the area of digital forensics, and we're very happy to see that come to reality. Our new live scan digital fingerprinting unit has finally arrived, so IT staff are working with police personnel to get that installed. Our community wellness team have been tasked to raise awareness to the issue of discarded needles from a harm reduction approach. Councillor Creel had brought up the issue of discarded needles, and with the weather changing and the snow evaporating and disappearing, it's revealing a lot of discarded material that accumulated over the winter, including needles. And we'll certainly do our part to raise awareness to that, and also work with our partners in the community, through the addiction side and harm reduction side, to reduce the risk to the public regarding these needles.
And once again, on those needles, Chief, they phone you or do they phone Public Works?
Well,
I was reading the article, I just
yeah,
wondered.
so, certainly they can call us through our non-emergency number, and in turn we'll dispatch the appropriate resources, whether it be Public Works or police.
Okay.
But whenever in doubt, call our non-emergency number, and the most important thing is to get that needle removed from our streets and sidewalks and properties. So we urge people to do that.
Okay, thank you.
The issue of homelessness remains an issue in our city. Our officers are continuing to respond to calls for service every day about people sleeping in vestibules, doorways, ATM locations. Our community wellness team is working to help those individuals find proper accommodations, and working with other community partners to try to get them the services they need. So it's certainly a reality and something we respond to every single day. And that's my operational report, Chair.
Okay,
Any questions?
any questions for the operational part? Councillor
Just a
Duffy?
question, Mr. Chair. Back to the needles, Chief, how many would you have in the run of a month? Like, you know, I don't need it down to the tens, so to speak, you know. Would they have, would they get 150 calls, or would they get 15 calls, or, like, you know, just approximate?
Yeah, it would certainly, there would be several a week for sure,
Yeah.
Councillor Duffy. You know, and that can be sporadic. We could get several one day and none for a few days. And again, with the weather changing and the snow revealing, you know, accumulation over the winter, it may seem worse than it really is, just because they've been hidden for some time. But you know, we do have an intravenous drug issue in our city. I think there's evidence of that, and we'll continue to you know, battle that on a few fronts, from a harm reduction side, but also on the enforcement side from the drugs that are being distributed in the community, and overall to, you know, improve the overall safety of our citizens that may be impacted by such things as discarded needles or you know, the residual effects of such things as a drug issue or related crimes like property crimes. That, you know, there's clear alignment between drug issues and property-related crimes, and so you know, we continue to keep all that in perspective and make sure that we're doing as much as we can in all fronts to improve the outcomes.
The reason I ask is around Charlotte down here, some stores have in their washrooms, they have sharps containers to be used, and it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. Like, you go in one day and there's nothing in it. There's a brand new one they put up this morning, so to speak, and go in a week and a half, the thing's 3/4 full. Like, I just can't get over the fact that someone will go in, and I'm not going to name the stores or whatever, into a certain store and wander down into the public washroom to inject anything, let alone legal or illegal. I just can't get it. Like, and it would take a lot of needles to fill up one of those long. I'm amazed at it.
Yeah, you know, certainly, you know, I think there is a lot of evidence of the issue, and you'll see that in some of the washrooms. And, you know, I'd like to think, in my experience anyway, that most people that are suffering from addictions will want to do the right thing. If they have a place to put their needle that's convenient or appropriate, they will make a good choice. But there are many instances where we find them on our city streets and stuff. So the more you know, without promoting, you know, the use of intravenous drugs, you know, from a responsible approach, I think we need to realize that we need to have them accessible to users so that they're not discarding them on our streets and properties.
And I'll finish with this, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
Is that they used to have a blue light up in the ceiling rather than just the ordinary white light. And they've taken those out. I don't know why, because it was led to believe by the medical people that the blue light makes it difficult for people to find the vein that they're searching for. And therefore, putting the white light back in rather than the blue light is supposed to minimize the use. I don't know. If it was a lie to you, it's because it was a lie to me, but makes kind of a bit of sense to me. Anyway, thank you.
You're very welcome, Councillor Duffy. Your worship?
Chair, just to follow up what Councillor Duffy has stated, and I know the chief is quite aware of it, and so are police services. So the mental health crisis in Charlottetown and throughout the region, throughout the country, it's at a maximum limit because of COVID and all the other stresses in our society. But if you look at the provincial responsibility, I know there's been a call for a safe injection site. Has that something that the province has spoken to the police services about, or have you consulted with other jurisdictions where there are safe injection sites?
It's something that has come up in discussions, Worship and Chair, over the last several years. It's certainly a controversial issue, and
Yeah.
we'll continue to engage and be involved in those discussions to make sure that we find the right fit here in Charlottetown. There's a lot of good examples across the country of safe injection sites and the need for them. So we're happy to continue in those conversations.
Yeah, because I know it's a provincial NAG or provincial jurisdiction. But if you look at other jurisdictions in the region with this crisis that we're going through, mental health crisis, is there an explosion of discarded paraphernalia from what homelessness is bringing to the front?
No, I wouldn't describe it as an explosion. It's certainly been an ongoing issue. I think you check back in the minutes and headlines from several years ago, you'll see indications of the issue. And we really need to focus through against these types of issues through a harm reduction approach. I know the province has recently hired an individual to kind of steer that harm reduction focus in municipalities and areas across the city, so to make sure people are coordinated and are using best practices. And we look forward to engaging with that person and improving the outcomes for everyone in our city and province.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Councillor Drong, any questions for the chief?
Yes, I do, Councillor Ramsey. Thank you. I just have a comment and a question that just came to me yesterday. Of course, the CAT team, I have to say thanks again to the chief for putting this in place. It seems that I'm getting lots of calls lately about Constable Coffin. He's doing a great job in our area and really cracking down on people going through stop signs by the school. And it's a really great thing to see. And another comment I have is a lady called me the other day about bicycle lane. She kept saying that, there's people parking in the bicycle lane and, it's dangerous to get around. And she said, do you realize that there's no fines for people that park in the bicycle lane? And I wasn't aware of that, but could the chief kind of enlighten us on that to see is there any fines if you're parked in the bicycle lane? Is there any police action that could be done if you're parked in the bicycle lane, or what with that? I'm just wondering if you could comment on that for me, please.
Is that in front of someone's residence, Bobby, if the bike lane goes up in front, for example, and they're parking their car in the street?
Well, yeah, this lady in particular, she goes down Belvedere Avenue and she turns into Parkview Drive, and there's some cars there, or there's cars in a business across the street that she has to pull around, and traffic's coming quite fast on Belvedere Avenue, and she's just nervous. So she said, well, if you don't get a parking spot at Victoria Park, just park in the bike lane, because there's nothing that the police can do. So I found that strange. I'm just wondering, is there anything we can do about, people parking in the bicycle lane or anything like that?
Chief?
Yeah, Chair, Councillor Drawn, there are lots of examples across the city where there are, parking in certain areas that the bike lane go through. So, but there are many more spaces that are restricted parking. So bike lane aside, there's lots of places that they're not supposed to park. So there's no clear answer to the question. If you have a particular complaint, I can try to address that particular area and to see if there's, a lack of compliance in there. But there are fines that can be added if it's a restricted parking area, if the vehicle's parked that's creating a dangerous situation, but as regards to specific to parking in a bike lane, no, there's not.
Well, thank you, Chief, for clarifying that. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chair?
Yes,
For
sir.
example, on Brighton Road, for example, folks biking down to Victoria Park.
Mhm.
There's a bike lane there on the right-hand side as we're heading down towards the pool. There's no impediments to people parking there on the bike lane. I found this out the hard way. That's the way it is. And I know what the lady's talking about, and I know it can be dangerous sometimes, but that's the rule. The bicycles or the people in vehicles can park as long as the chief says, there's no other parking impediments like 1 hour parking or I don't know what it could be. But, it is confusing to the general public. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, because I noticed that like a lot of residents too, like if their houses are standing there and there's a park, there's a bike lane, and if they have people in visiting, like they'll park right in front of the house, right?
And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I
Okay.
know it's kind of goes against.
But Councillor Drawn, please, if you have a constituent that has concerns about a certain area, please have them contact us, and we'll address it to try to see if there's a particular issue in that area, or people are abiding by the signage and situation that is in that particular area that she's talking about.
That'd be great, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Drown. Okay, personnel chief? Or does anyone have any more questions on operational? I guess we're all good. Okay, chief?
So moving on to personnel, we currently have one member of police services with COVID, and we have 5 people isolating due to being close contacts with COVID. Our Police Act training is ongoing within the department, with officers taking part in the use of force training this week. And that's what I have for personnel.
Okay. Any questions on personnel? No, we're all good. Thank you. Bylaws?
Good.
Oh, yeah, okay, thank you, Councilor Drown. Bylaws?
So moving on to bylaw, our staff are working on drafting the amendments to the taxi bylaw. There was a number of recommendations put forth from the taxi industry, including an increase in fares, amendments associated to the frequency of inspections of taxis, smoking within taxis, and stand licensing. So there's a lot to consider. Our staff are doing the research and to make sure that we get the proper amendments put forth to council, and we hope to have that done for April's meeting.
Very good.
So just an update, Mr. Chair. Have you had any complaints with regards to the taxi fares? As you know, there's been some concerns. Can you just address that for the committee?
Yes, Chair, we are not aware of any complaints from the public regarding taxi rates. We, like everyone else, have heard about potential increases and we've reached, our bylaw officer has reached out to the taxi stands, informed them that no rate has been approved by council, but we are working hard to get those amendments put forward.
So, Mr. Chair, just
Yes.
follow up. So that's why I brought up under business arising from the minutes, at the last standing committee meeting of police and emergency services on February 22nd, there was a proposed amendment or request to raise it by $1, correct?
That's correct.
And that has to go through, as you said, a bylaw process, and then it has to be approved by council as a whole. Okay, that's good.
Under resolution, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Councilor Duffy?
Thank you.
Councilor Drown, any questions on bylaws?
No,
Thank you very
no,
much.
I'm fine.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, in our last meeting, we had a presentation from Sue Skeffington regarding handicapped parking. Since that time, our parking coordinator has been working with Sue to find a way to improve that situation, and there are some challenges that they're trying to work through, and trying to implement some technology, but we'll continue that work, and we'll keep committee updated on any potential changes. But again, any changes would have to be through an amendment to council for their approval.
Very good.
Could I just ask, under what part of the bylaw? Would it be under the parking bylaw? I'm just-
Yeah, it's under the parking in relation to handicap parking.
So this would be outside of the designated disabled or
Yes, it would.
disabled areas?
Yeah.
But would there be something to indicate that this person is just from the Council for People with Disabilities, or I know there's a new name for it, would they use that as
Yeah,
to
certainly.
signify it's a disabled?
Yeah, certainly, there's a few things to work out on the identification of the vehicles that are parked there, but certainly one of our requirements would be a recommendation for some sort of validation of being a handicapped person, if there are going to be any considerations for lowered or no rates for those vehicles, and certainly it's going to have to be qualified by some means.
Right,
Yeah,
to identify the vehicle.
exactly.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
I came in late on that topic last month, so that's my fault, but I'm still not sure. What's the objective, Chief, of that particular proposal? Is it the handicap spots, the disabled spots, I should say, those are ones that the objective of the blue spots is for people, disabled people, to a place to park. They still feed the meter, correct?
That's correct.
That's right, under normal circumstances. So now with this proposal or suggestion, do they still feed the meter?
What they're advocating for is free parking for handicapped people with a designated, in any parking spot.
Yeah.
So what about the people that park in the blue spot?
Well, that would be part of the consideration, that would have to be removed also.
I think the moral of the story, Councillor Duffy, is that they, as you said, you were late last week, or last time, they want to be able to park in any parking spot, am I correct?
Yeah.
For free.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, it does state very clearly that this amendment would allow
Yeah.
anyone with a valid designated parking permit
To park,
to
yeah.
park at any meter on any street without putting coinage in for the amount of time that is not on the meter. And she did note that in the Maritimes and Atlantic provinces, she was advised that Moncton, Halifax, St. John do not have this type of amendment. Is that something we
That's
supplied?
correct. That's something she supplied.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do not. Halifax, Moncton.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're very welcome. That's it, your worship, for you?
Chair, that's my bylaw report. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Coombs now to provide the community policing report.
Thank you. Deputy?
Thank you, Chair, Your Worship. So from the community, the school resource officers at both high schools, Colonel Gray and Charlottetown Rural, for the month of March, they presented information sessions and enforcement on vaping and the dangers related to that. They also presented information sessions with a girls group, they're called, on positive emotional well-being. They conducted scenario training with TAP, that's Transitional Action Plan Team, on scenario-based training. The school resource officers worked along with Charlottetown Police Major Crime Unit on a sexual assault involving a student at one of the high schools. It was a big help in that with the major crime officers. They conducted 4 presentations on law and police powers in high schools in the law classes. And they began to the delayed rollout on the Healthy Meat program for grade 6 students. So we're finally able to get to that after the lockdown and the pandemic. From our integrated offender management officer, he again was an integral part of provincial bridge group program and he's meeting twice a week with that group. He's met with 15 separate clients involved in high-risk situations where there was partnering between our officer and other government departments or organizations. And he is also continuing to monitor activity at the outreach center. Community Action Team conducted road checks, enforcement in partnership with other island law enforcement agencies on the Provincial Impaired Driving Initiative. So there was funding for that in the budget, and they've been out every weekend for all February and all March. They also conducted a high visibility road check on Kent Street last Saturday. That was March 18th. No impaired drivers went through that road check, but they did issue 15 summary offense tickets on that evening. And officers also assisted with Public Works on some snow removal issues through February and March in relation to some private contractors who were pushing snow out onto the roads. So they helped out with that. Our community wellness team also is maintaining constant communication and contacts at the outreach center as well. Just the team alone, not general patrol, but just the wellness team alone, have responded to over 20 mental health calls for service this month. They've also assisted the provincial mobile mental health unit as mandated to do so. And Constable Zach Gould is instructing on a mental health awareness course in St. John for New Brunswick law enforcement agencies. He'll be there for 5 years, and we were able to put him through not only the course, but as an instructor, so he's been able to offer that service to some outside agencies.
Excellent.
And that's the report from the community.
Any questions, Councillor Duffy?
You meant 5 days, didn't you?
Yeah.
5 days?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, okay. No, thanks. No, I'm good.
Your Worship?
Thank you, sir.
Councillor Drawn?
No, I'm fine, thank you, Kevin.
Okay. Thank you, Deputy Chief. I think that's it for the open, is it? Okay, I need a motion to move into closed session as per section 119(1)(b) to under the matter of the MGA Act, Human Resources Matter. Councillor Duffy, and second by your worship.
Sure.
Councillor Draw. Just give us 1 sec, Bob, till we take the TV cameras out.
Just 10 bucks.